As therapists, we know that burnout is a real problem. Fortunately, as therapists, we understand a lot of the tools around self care and burnout prevention, but not everybody is so fortunate. And so today we're going to be talking about how we can help our colleagues as well as the clients we serve manage burnout prevention before it becomes a problem. And joining us today is Dr. Monica Vermani, creator of the impactful Start Living Corporate Wellness Program, and we'll dive into her unique approach and how you can use similar strategies to empower your clients. In this episode of the Mental Health Toolbox, we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming Dr. Monica Vermani, one of Canada's top clinical psychologists, to the show. Dr. Vermani is not just a highly sought-after clinician, she's also an author, speaker, and passionate advocate for mental health and wellness. In her practice, she works with individuals and families, helping them overcome challenges like trauma, anxiety, and addiction. But her reach extends far beyond the therapy room. Dr. Vermani is a firm believer in the power of mental well-being in the workplace. Her innovative Start Living corporate wellness programs are making waves of empowering employees and teams to thrive. She's also the author of A Deeper Wellness, a guide to achieving a more profound and authentic sense of well-being. And if that wasn't enough, she's a regular contributor to major publications like Psychology Today, Forbes, and Oprah Daily, generously sharing her expertise with a wide audience. Get ready for a truly insightful conversation as we delve into the complexities of mental health and the importance of self-care, and Dr. Vermani's inspiring journey to help others live their best life and authentic lives. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Monica Vermani. Dr. Vermani, thank you so much for joining us on the Mental Health Toolbox podcast. Thank you for coming on and being willing to share your wealth of information around burnout prevention and how we can all help each other in this space.
Thank you, Patrick, for having me.
My pleasure. So as always, we do believe in tools up front. And if you have your notebook handy, don't worry if you don't, because we'll put everything in the show notes, as always. We always like to put up on screen where we can find our guest and the wonderful work they're doing. Dr. Vermani is the author of A Deeper Wellness. You can find that on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. We'll make sure we link up to that. Her website is drmonicavermani.com, where you can find the work she's doing there as well, and her programs, as well as her social media. It looks like your handle is the same on Instagram, Dr. Monica Vermani.
So on LinkedIn.
Follow her there. And LinkedIn, right? All good stuff. All right. Well, welcome to the show. Doctor, thank you so much for making time. I'm curious, given your background, so extensive, you've been a clinical psychologist for over 25 years in practice, dealing with trauma. You're EMDR certified, I assume, CBT, trauma CBT, mindfulness. What led you down the road of burnout in particular into this space?
So, I've gone to school for 15 years on top of high school, and you end up learning through all your schooling. You meet these wonderful mentors, colleagues, and professors that do fascinating work and inspire you to become like the best clinician you possibly can by having different tools under your belt. And I've been fortunate to have fantastic meditation teachers as well as clinicians to teach me different ways of treating mood, anxiety, stress, and trauma. And during my path, I started psychology and working in the field of psychology since I was a teen. Since 16. So I was very fortunate to work with abused women and children, with women in prison, men in prison, Center for Addiction and Mental Health just with anxiety disorders, Lake Ridge Mental Health Center with children and families with anxiety, UHN with brain and spinal cord injury. Lots of work with those populations of mood, anxiety, stress, and trauma, 9/11 responders, military work. So lots of work in these extreme populations, which also then teach you how to work with everything in the middle. But when I meet these phenomenal professionals, the best question I used to ask them is, how do you maintain balance? All of us show up with a good heart. We enter the fields with that humanitarian effort of wanting to help people be the best version of themselves, as well as we train ourselves. We're also trying to be the best version of ourselves so that we don't burn out and we don't get sick as we're healing others or helping others, right? And so, throughout my journey, I've been very fortunate to learn meditation when I was a very young kid, about age 10, through family and culturally, I'm East Indian by background, so I had a lot of meditation teachers. So I've always had meditation as one of my coping mechanisms throughout my life, but you always fall off of good habits when life is going well or it gets too busy. And I think as thriving new professionals, many of us start sacrificing self-care and try to climb that corporate ladder or try to be good in our jobs by sometimes self-sacrificing and self-sabotaging by not maintaining the things that keep us healthy. So, I've been fortunate to have just the right mentors, but I've always asked since I was a young age, one specific question: how do you maintain balance? How do you maintain health? And a lot of my well-esteemed professors, mentors, colleagues, bosses, and supervisors never really had a firm answer of this is what I do that really works for me. All of them were trying to stumble around, trying to figure it out because we were ambitious, we were academics, we were, humanitarians that wanted to help, and our heart was big, and we were trying to be everybody's everything. Mm-hmm. Best quote I ever lived by and learned to try to manage my own self-care was, don't give from an empty well, give from an overflow. And so many of us, when we are building our careers and building our practices or working to, have that reputation to be seen as reputable, we sacrifice health and well-being of ourselves and give from an empty well. Don't give from an empty well, give from an overflow really means about, are you taking care of the reserves that make you healthy to get you to a place that you are giving back to the people that you actually care about, friends, family, colleagues, patients, at the best of your ability. And so learning to give from, a full well is really about understanding what stress and burnout is and how we sometimes slip down the slippery slope, and constantly realizing that being healthy is a full-time job. I had an acupuncturist once say, a healthy day is 8 hours work, 8 hours play, and 8 hours sleep. I think very few of us live that way, but it's good to aim towards, how do I bring my own life to a place of health?
Wow, that's so well said. I've never quite heard it put that way before. I've heard of showing up as our best selves and we have to fill our cup. We've heard the analogy of put on your oxygen mask first before you help someone else. But to give from an overflow has I think, a stronger connotation to it.
Yeah. I think also spirituality, like you enjoying your own spirit, your own company. It's not about religion, but how fulfilled are you in your own lives makes us 20 times better as clinicians and therapists out there. Taking care of you. You have to add yourself in the equation of your life. You are literally born alone, taking your first breath in alone, and you're taking your last breath out alone. It is an individual journey amongst this collective. And the collective is your family, your friends, your society, the people that we work with, and acquaintances and, strangers even we bump into. Are we taking care of us and adding ourselves in the equation of our own lives? I think that's very important in today's world. And, don't get me wrong, as we're growing, there's a quote I love to live by: being well adjusted to a sick society is unhealthy.
Right.
So many of us train our children to be well adjusted to the sick society with competition, with self-sacrifice, proving yourself, moving up that ladder. And there's a depletion of, self-sacrifice and depletion of resources that we encounter trying to build ourselves in the early stages of our career. And then those habits become so solid in our lives that we become that, hamster on the wheel, creature of habit. It's hard to break bad habits that maybe at one age you needed to bring in just to get to the place of your career that you're happy in. But once you're there, finish school, working successfully, when do you start pulling things back? When do you start bringing in more health reserves? And the truth is, were you supposed to sacrifice as you were building in the first place? And so many of our parents do the best they can with what they have. And, one of my books that will come out in the future will be about, even immigrant statuses and how sometimes our parents, we take on their ancestral traumas of scarcity, of working hard, of, work ethics that, maybe hard work doesn't kill you. But the truth is, the right kind of work might not kill you, but certain types of jobs can kill you if you're overworking. And it is important to look at the wear and tear our mind, body, and soul goes through. And are you happy in your life? Many people sacrifice their own joy, happiness, and contentment to serve in a community of identity based cultures where we're working as a part of our identity versus seeing work as one role I play. At your grave, you're not going to be complaining you didn't spend more hours at work. You're going to be complaining about all the people and the things you sacrificed. And it's okay to have some sacrifice at certain points in life, but it should be that fight or flight and comes back down. Many of us professionals tend to go, 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 and we stay going for a prolonged period of time. And that's where the burnout comes in.
The exception, not the rule.
Not the rule.
Right. To suffer for a season, to walk over hot coals for a short time, to know what we're doing it for, but it's not to be a way of life.
But sometimes it's that carrot on the string thing. Like we keep pushing the time limit of how long we're going to sacrifice. And next thing you know, it becomes years or it becomes a lifetime. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of a active shooter training I was doing and I work as a therapist. And I remember vividly, because it was such, they set it up in such a way that it was very alarming. They came rushing into the room with, the ski masks and the mock firearms and all of that. And they were very verbal and physical, and to where it felt almost like it was a real, like you're really in that kind of moment. And I remember it stuck with me what the trainer said at the end is that in this work, we often develop this sense of new normal. Like you were talking about the adaptation, the habituation to oftentimes the societal norms of the hustle culture. It's kind of, if we want to get ahead or even if we want to compete, right? If we want to feel like we are going to make our mark or get traction with particular goals in life, oftentimes there is that hustle mentality. But even in the work that we do, you said you've worked a lot with first responders, and it does become kind of this new normal, this kind of, that's just life. That's just, stress. What do you mean? That's just what I do, but we oftentimes don't realize that we keep, kicking the can down the street in terms of what we're willing to put ourselves through in order to get the job done.
I had heard this concept about a set point being extended, and it was related to weight gain, actually. It was like, when you overeat, often you kind of lose the set point that was a trigger, and you now have created a new norm where now your body doesn't know what the set point is. And I feel this with stress. When we are overextending for a prolonged period of time, your body used to tell you how much sleep it needs, what is healthy, what your energy reserve should feel like in a healthy body. But when you're so used to pushing the envelope and so used to, extending timelines of stressful periods of time in your life by trying to meet deadlines or overworking or building a practice, you get to a place where you kind of lose focus on what's my set point anymore, what's healthy. And I think that's important, is understanding what stress is in order to treat it, and not just once or twice, but to make it as a lifetime, goal to keep checking in with yourself. Am I doing the basics? Am I keeping myself healthy? Do I know what stress looks like in my life? And even if I'm someone with a higher threshold of pain and suffering from more stress, do I know what the healthy looks like that I should try to be aiming towards getting back to?
So it sounds like it's a multi-pronged approach. And I think what you just said, how we even identify stress, that necessitates us being aware, self-aware of what is adding stress to us, right? But also what healthy looks like, right? Because I think, like you said, the further we move our set point, sometimes it gets a little more ambiguous about what, quote, healthy should look or feel like for us. Not that we want to shit on ourselves, but we know what makes us, I think we all know when we're in a really good space, when we feel like, sometimes it's referred to as flow state, right? When we have, like you said, that ability to overflow to others, right? And I think that's the difference between that analogy of filling your cup, right? And the way you put it, overflowing, because it's about giving from a place of fulfillment, not being a martyr and serving always serving first, but sacrificing
Yeah.
and putting our needs, to the last thing or on the back burner.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with sacrificing and serving others, but if I'm hearing you right, what you're saying is that we won't serve at the same level if we're in a constant state of sacrifice,
And
right?
depletion. Yeah. And
Depletion. Yeah.
as you just mentioned, it is important for you to do a touch base, understand your symptoms, understand,
Mhm.
your body better. But that means sometimes pausing and reflecting. And as you were just saying, the flow, what you call flow, I call meditation. Meditation is doing one thing with complete presence.
Mm.
Today's world perpetuates multitasking and doing more things than one at the same moment. It's when you lose that concept of time and space and you're like, oh my gosh, time went by so fast hanging out with my friends. That's where you're at your bliss. You're in a place where you're
Mhm.
not thinking, you're not in the future, forecasting worst case scenarios and, thinking about the imagination of your mind taking you to places, and you're not in the past, regretting your past decisions you've made. You're here and now, just enjoying with your senses, that moment, the exact moment. And, as you're mentioning, stress is an interesting one. And I'll give you a concept of stress that I find very effective to treat patients with and clients with.
Mhm.
But another thing is, and I have it right here. So you're going to get the diagram.
Oh, excellent. I love it. I love
Now,
diagrams. I'm so visual.
so for you people with pens and paper, one
I'm
of
gonna
my,
take myself off a screen for a second here so everybody gets the full. But yeah, keep going. I'm still here.
so I always tell people, all our symptoms have a purpose, all human behavior has a purpose. And so this is a diagram that I find very effective to help patients or clients with, or ourselves, just see where we are in life. Any problem in life you can put on this three-legged table, and it will always manifest. Your problems will manifest in three distinct symptoms. So problems could be anxiety, depression, relationship problems, money problems, self-esteem issues, social struggles, not feeling good enough, not feeling capable, body image issues, social struggles with mingling and, doing presentations, fear of driving, phobias, etc. Any problem you have in life, medical conditions, cancer, diabetes, caregiver needs to your children or your elderly parents, and I can go on. So any problem in your life, you can put on this table and it will manifest in three distinct ways. First way is through physical or physiological symptoms: headaches, muscle aches, abdominal distress, constipation, diarrhea, heart palpitations, crying, sensitivity, irritability, angry outbursts, eating too much, eating too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, restlessness, panic attacks. Number of physical symptoms peaking and dropping, restlessness, exhaustion, fatigue, and the list goes on. Second way things show up in your life is cognitive. 0 to 10, these are negative thoughts. 0 to 10, you're not born in that world. You're born in a household. The way mom and dad love each other is love. The way mom and dad fight is conflict resolution. So these are thoughts that we first develop from our biological family of origin. And then as we grow, life is just a series of experiences, and some of the success and failures we have, we sometimes personalize. So these shapes our thoughts and beliefs about the world, or narratives about it. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Men are this way. Women are this way. What relationships look like, what conflict looks like, what avoidance needs to be done. If your dad drinks at the end of the day to cope with stress, that's the way to cope with stress. If mom's a clean freak, cleaning's a value. Things like this. We learn and we develop narratives and thoughts, and we also personalize things. Not good enough, imposter syndrome, not capable, not worthy of love, right? And the third way things show up in your life is behaviorally, lifestyle habits. So you got negative, you got unhealthy physical symptoms occurring, you got negative thoughts racing in your head or ruminating over and over. And then how does it show up in your lifestyle? Behaviorally, eating too much, eating too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, alcohol and drugs, none of these guys, we do it here. Avoidance, denial, procrastination, staying stuck in bad relationships, not leaving toxic workplaces, not asking for help, people pleasing, putting others ahead of ourselves, overextending, overworking, poor self-care, not getting the medical attention you need, putting up with abuse, not setting boundaries, not asking a medical practitioner for guidance, learning to do it all ourselves, self-medication, and the list goes on. Gambling, pornography, video gaming too much, anything in excess. So the three of these keep your problems standing in life. And if you go to your medical doctor, you often share the physical symptoms because we want relief from that so we can keep pushing ourselves through. a lot of, as a therapist, I do CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I do EMDR to help you look at memories and where physiological symptoms maybe are lodged in your nervous system that keep getting triggered. Meditation is also learning to sit with symptoms instead of always looking to numb them. It's about working on your symptoms. And if I had to give us a goal in life, I have this one too. If I had to give us a goal in life, we all have life tasks of school, work, social, intimacy, self-care, spirituality. I put self-care and spirituality in the same boat because it's completely in our control and we don't do enough of it. And so spirituality is not religion. It's you enjoying your spirit, you liking your own company, liking the content that goes on in your head, liking your own company with hobbies, interests, etc. But school, work, social, intimacy, very in control. And so I often tell clients or patients, if I had a magic wand, I can take away your problems. Where would you like to be? So the goal is always to wave this magic wand, take you from where you are to where you want to be. This gap are your symptoms. Again, back to this table here. It's important for us to start looking at life about symptoms. All human symptoms have a purpose. Are you exploring in your life where your symptoms are at when you feel stressed out? Are they physical that are more bothersome? Negative thoughts that tell you you're not good enough or not capable? And this is great to use with people, but it's great to use for ourselves, even as a checkpoint, to say, okay, pause and reflect. Monica, where are you at right now? What's going on? What are your symptoms? And am I having enough time to deal with them? Am I getting the right help? Am I breaking certain patterns? As I mentioned about parents, my mom used to say, hard work doesn't kill you. But my mom's work was a very different type of work than mine. And so at one point I remember saying, hey, Monica, that narrative of hard work doesn't kill you is mom's. And that worked for her, but it doesn't work for you. Hard work can kill you. Mm-hmm. It's not about working hard. It's about working smart. How do I add in self-care? How do I add in stress management? And that word since the pandemic has been everywhere. Burnout, stress management. What is really stress? Stress is when your activity level surpasses your energy level. I'll repeat that. Stress is when your activity level surpasses your energy level. Activity is mental as well as physical. And so we have two
Thank you for saying that, because I think that's easy. That's an easy one to pass by, and it's an easy one to miss. And sometimes people will even gawk at that, Well, I'm not digging ditches, or someone will use that as a self-justification, right? That, I can take on more. It's not like I'm,
We think we can, but mentally, like a lot of us sit all day long sometimes, but your mind is constantly active. And so physical or mental. So again, stress is when your activity level surpasses your energy. You have two options: bring down activity, which you can only bring down so much physical, you got to work. But the mental activity you can only bring down so much too. Then the next option to reduce the stress in your body is to bring up energy reserves. And sometimes the basics are taken for granted. Food we eat is one of the energy reserves. We're eating oftentimes that go up and down throughout the day. Stimulants, coffee, chocolate, sugar, depressants, alcohol, cigarettes, weed, carby foods, heavy foods, right? We're not always eating to sustain a steady level of energy. Sleep, we sacrifice it sometimes to reach our goals and to write articles and to do things. But that one too, are you getting enough sleep? Are you waking up renewed and refreshed in the morning? These are things that we need to pause and reflect to look at. And sometimes, seasonal affective disorder, certain things impact us, but on a day-to-day, are you getting enough quality sleep, and are you sleeping well? Do you have sleep apnea or other things that maybe you need to address? Alcohol is a depressant. If you drink often, you might find you're not having quality sleep because you're not getting the deep sleep you need. Exercise and breathing. Why is that one of the ones that bring us up in stress levels? Exercise makes us breathe. Mm-hmm. As children, we have a belly breath, and then as we grow, we do these short and shallow breaths from running around. Right. A rat race. Yeah. So, when you do cardio or you do exercise or yoga or breathing, your breathing patterns go back to what they should be. And you get that relaxation from oxygen levels just being dispersed through your body. And the fourth one is a calm state of mind, dealing with things. When I showed you that problem with the table with three legs. Are you dealing with things in your life that are causing you conflict, relationship struggles, self-esteem issues, caregiver needs, sandwich generations are taking care of children and parents that are aging?
Mhm.
Are you asking for help? Are you bringing in resources? Are you making time for yourself to rest as you're there for everybody else that you love? And dealing with things like practical things, your taxes, your, lifestyle to make it more efficient. I find, like I said earlier in the session, is being healthy is a full-time job, and we need to start learning how to add ourselves into the equation of our lives.
I love that phrase, and I think I'll steal it.
Let's do it.
No, I'll quote you. No, it really is, and I think that's the work of mental health. For someone who's not experienced and doesn't have lived experience as a consumer practitioner of mental health, sometimes it's easy to assume that therapy is just talking about feelings or problems or venting, but it's really, as you've so eloquently put it, it's about being proactive with how we manage this thing called life, how we manage this vessel of our bodies, and how we negotiate the two,
I'll give
right?
you another quote that I love. Being the first step to treatment is always awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And so that table with three legs came from that. To me, it's all about bringing about awareness. All human symptoms have a purpose. All human behavior has a purpose. Let's try to understand the purpose of self-sabotage, not maintaining our disciplines, self-sacrifice, people pleasing, putting others ahead of ourselves, not speaking our truth, not advocating for ourselves, standing up for ourselves, being hard on ourselves, high standards for ourselves, perfectionism. These are all symptoms. So pause and reflect to look at, awareness. Am I aware of my maladaptive behaviors? Am I aware of my maladaptive symptoms? And deciding to change is what brings people to therapy. Coming into my office is making a promise to yourself that I'm done with some of these old habits that I know I shouldn't be doing, but I can't break the habit.
Mm-hmm.
Actionable steps is hopefully where I come in to take you from where you are to where you want to go. And the gap here are just your symptoms. As you reduce and work on symptoms, your ideal life and your actual life align. Having compassion is a big one, I find, of why we don't take actionable steps. Life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up is hard, managing is hard, breaking patterns is hard, being healthy is work. And so having compassion that you're going to wobble, correct and continue. Be your own best friend, to hold your hand through your dysfunction, hold your hand through narratives that made sense at one age that today are not making sense, but making your life harder, and strive to have healthy habits by also bringing in support. We are not alone, and we live like we are. This individualistic culture in the Western world, in the Eastern world, there's still a little more community, but
Mm-hmm.
in the Western world, there's this, I need to do it myself. And no, you don't. You're born individually learning about your journey, but you're in a collective world. Reach out to the resources, reach out to the friends and the family who might be doing things better, and learn from each other. When I see somebody that I judge as lesser than me, I'm like, hey, I grew from there. When I see and judge somebody as doing better than me, I realize I can acquire those skills and become it. But if you're not sharing your journey, if you're not talking about what you're struggling with, where are you going to learn from other people? Keeping
Absolutely.
conversations superficial doesn't allow us to go to deeper levels of healing. And that's why I called my book A Deeper Wellness. Wherever you're at, you can pick up that book and work on exercises to work through guilt, shame, blame, to work on perfectionism or standards that just no longer serve you.
Absolutely. I'm definitely adding that to my reading list, and I just love the way that you have so seamlessly tied all of this together, this idea of stress management, this burnout prevention, self-care, self-compassion, and highlighting those fundamental pillars, right, of cognitive behavioral therapy, or the cognitive behavioral approach, right, of addressing all three, because I think we all struggle with at least one of those verticals, right? And sometimes we just know that what we're doing isn't working, but we don't really know why. And And that's where the insight really comes in, and taking the time to love ourselves enough to do
Change.
the work, right?
And realize baby steps. Like, I think, when I ask people if I had that magic wand, I can take away your problems, where would you like life to go? Some people get overwhelmed. They're like, there's so many things to change. I'm like, I know. Let's just pick one. Let's start with baby steps and have a little bit of compassion that, I think it's like layers of cleaning. And you work on one thing, you get it right, and then you do another layer. It's like decluttering your house or whatever. There's layers and layers. You get it done, and then you go back and do it again. And that's what I wrote the book with the same intention. It's a workbook so that, once you finish it all, you can start from scratch and do it all over again and just pick another habit or another title of what you are making excuses for that you don't have time to, and let's make the time now to work through it, right? And we all have demands. Like, I love when, you go on a social gathering and everybody's like, I'm busy, I'm tired. And those sound like the standard in today's world. And everybody's busy. I don't care who you are. Even you ask that 4-year-old on the carpet, they're saying they're busy too.
Right.
Everybody's busy. So, it's not about saying I'm busy. There's all these other words. We choose to be busy. That's the other one. Take ownership. Your life is sometimes exactly as you made it. Now, I'm going to add in a caveat here, because people with trauma will say, like, but the things that happened to me, I didn't choose. Yes. Circumstances and things that happen to us, are not in our control many times. And that's where the fear of uncertainty comes in. But our way of managing it, our way of being proactive, our way of having a pity party. I had somebody last week saying after their breakup, they gave themselves 2 years of a pity party, spent money, partied, did reckless things, and not proud of it, but they own it. And now let's clean it. Correct and continue. Let's move forward. All right. You wanted to have a pity party. You wanted to have your moment. Fine. Now where are you? I'm tired of that. I need something better. I need to get back to where I'm proud of me. Right. So, I think we all have our own guidelines of who we think we want to be. Sometimes I do end of life exercises with people where I say, when you're at your funeral, maybe in the spirit world, watching all these people talk about you, how do you want to be remembered by your loved ones? And are you living a life in alliance to the people that will be in the audience, remembering you that way? Mm-hmm. And sometimes we forget the people that we work with will probably just be notified you passed away, but they might not be necessarily there talking about you. And so the people we sometimes sacrifice that mean so much to us, are the ones that are going to be remembering us. How do you want them to remember you? And are you living a life where you're in health? With the pandemic, there was so many people bringing up like the wars and the news. And, when you're in pain, you spill over onto others. And so I'm going to take it away from the world news, but even individually, when you're not treating your symptoms and doing well, you spill over onto others, whether that's in not being present, that's in symptoms of being angry and frustrated and not communicative or not loving. So when you're in pain, you spill over onto others. But when you're in health, there's also a ripple effect.
Right. Either way, it affects those around us. And you gave me goosebumps a minute ago when you were just talking about the concept of sacrifice. And we've been often think about the hustle culture as self-sacrifice or sacrificing luxuries. Okay, a little less Netflix, a little less sleep, poor me, I had to, couldn't play my favorite video game or whatever it is. And we do a little more of the hustle work or the side hustle. But it's not just what you're saying. It's not just sacrificing of the self. It's sacrificing the investment in the meaningful relationships in our lives that ultimately, if we're working backwards from a life well lived, it's about the relationships. And those are the people, in essence. Those are the relationships that we are in essence taking a loan out against to sometimes, and I understand this is a complicated subject because, like you said, there are with everything there's opportunity cost, and there is diminishing returns, right? Depending on what we're investing into, be that
professionally. We forget sometimes we're all born with the uncertainty of not knowing how and when we're going to die. But we're all going to die.
Right.
So we take time for granted, assuming we have a long time, but you don't have that guarantee. We're born with the uncertainty of not knowing when and how we're going to die, so that we can let go of control and sometimes just trust the journey and live each day as if it's your last. Are you doing pause and reflect, and are you living each day as if it's your last? Because if it was, did you bring in joy? Did you bring in gratitude? Did you hug your loved ones? Did you do the things that make you bubble, feel great about yourself, and thrive? And I think we all need to, sometimes shift perspective, remove the self-criticism, and just be like, okay, how do I bring in more joy in my days? How do I bring in more like love and playfulness? Because what if tomorrow I'm not here? Will I regret living how I lived? And I think it's
as opposed, right, to saying, oh, okay, I have an hour on Tuesday of next week. I'll do something for myself then.
I schedule a lot, and I'm not going to say I don't, but I schedule in a fair amount of play as much as I do work. And I think that's what makes then my life rich enough that when I pay it forward, people feel the benefits of the energy or the meditation or the playfulness in there, that we can sometimes learn to laugh at some of the most difficult things in our lives, and maybe even feel the need to let go of needing to control everything and just live fully and completely in your highest and best version of who you are today. And then just fine tune to be a better version of you,
I love that. I really appreciate you touching on the importance of being present and being in touch with our mortality, right? And I know in dealing with a lot of clients who are, I don't know if you want to call it the midlife crisis, but starting to contemplate, take stock, and sometimes there is that kind of health anxiety or mortality anxiety, which I feel is to some point very important. It's an important developmental stage that we're taking stock, right? Because it reminds us of what's important to us. And like you said, living in alliance with our values.
I see it like a bell curve. Like the first half of your life is time to live, right?
Yes.
And there's so much you haven't done. There's so much you want to do. And the second half of your life is time left to live, right? So more than calling it a midlife crisis, I think we just have an awareness of I'm left to live now. I'm in time left to live. I have elderly parents that are going out that hide in my own mortality. I might have friends and family members getting through ill more. And I'm realizing this time left to live is a little bit of a red flag, that I'm entering a time zone where I can reflect on the early parts of my life. What have I done? What have I sacrificed? How do I want to live this next chapter to bring more fulfillment? Because many times we have this time to live period where I think we have these idealized images of what life will look like. And then many times we go through some disappointment or heartaches or suffering that just comes with natural life. And we realize that some of the things I really wanted to do and never got time to do. Then are we making time? And that's where the midlife piece comes in. I think people start making time for changing so that they have more fulfillment, because now they're having an awareness of mortality, right?
Absolutely. Sorry, my dog is dreaming back there. He's chasing a cat or something.
There
you can hear him.
Best life, taking a snooze in the middle of the day.
Right.
I know.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a big believer in power naps. Talking about self-care. Like that is my number one coping skill.
Meditation in the middle of the day. Like 20 minutes of meditation, they say, is equal to 4 hours sleep. And I have to admit, if you do take a pause in the middle of your day, you can feel renewed and refreshed after, whether it's a nap or it's a meditation circle of just like breathing for a little bit or doing some stretches, or getting outside in nature, like bring in moments of joy, right?
Absolutely. And ideally, any stage in life you're at, you were just talking about the bell curve and time left to live. I think if we can get in the habit at any age, even young adults, even teenagers, even children are very present-minded. Something happens as we age that we become less present, right? Like you said, we have a foot in the past and a foot in the future.
These narratives, that's where the cognitions, kids don't get stuck to cognitions till after 10, and so as you start going through comparisons or failures, as you want to judge them, life is just a series of experiences, but we judge our experiences as positive or negative. And when we're judging things as negative, we're personalizing it. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable. And those personalizations are what you hold on to, that weigh you down, that in therapy you start, dissecting and understanding, where did this come from, and hopefully getting rid of. I set myself free of not feeling good enough, not capable, and not worthy and deserving, removing labels and belief systems or narratives that we're not good enough, or the high standards we place ourselves with. I love working with parents because I sometimes say to them, is there anything your child can do that would make you love them less? And they say to me, no, I love them unconditionally. They might disappoint me sometimes, but no, I love them unconditionally. I'm like, do you love yourself unconditionally? And they'll stop and they'll be like, no, I don't. I'm hard on me. That if I don't do this, this, and this, or things are not perfect, or my life is not ideal, or I'm not everybody's everything, I'm not good enough. So it's amazing how we have these high standards for ourselves, and we can unconditionally sometimes love people in our lives, but we don't necessarily unconditionally love ourselves. And that's where it goes back to compassion. Compassion is thinking of yourself as your best friend and holding your hand with kindness when things go wrong, or you didn't handle things right, or you snapped at your child, or you had a moment of frustration or irritability, or you didn't get something done that was really important. It's okay. Correct and continue, but be kind instead of being hard on yourself. We are in a place that can be quite self-punitive and self-harm.
And so that's challenging. I think it's easier said than done, depending on kind of what we're trying to give ourselves grace for.
Yeah.
Right. I'm wondering if you found there's any particular mental trick, mantra that helps kind of get in touch with that self-compassion.
I'm a firm believer of mantras because, life is about replacing one thought with the other. And if you watch my TED Talk was, think about it. Thoughts are powerful things. Everything ever created started with a thought. So good or bad, thoughts shape your life, right? And so my TED Talk, I have a masterclass that will be released at the end of the year on, again, CBT and how to work through negative thoughts. But what you just spoke of is important for us to realize the power of our thoughts. Mantras, there's two types. There's seed mantras. Seeds are one word that you just say over and over. And there's contemplative mantras. Contemplative are a sentence. And so seed could be om, right? Love, love, love. Contemplative could be, I am capable. I am capable. I'm capable. I'm worthy. I am worthy. I'm loved, adored, and respected by everybody. I'm loved, adored, respected by anybody, right? I attract abundance in multiple sources day and night. I am lovable. I'm lovable. Whatever you want, a sentence is going to be a contemplative one, and a one word is a seed. The purpose of mantras is to take away your thought from whatever maybe garbage or not productive or negative thoughts that you're stuck ruminating, thinking the same thing over and over and over and over. And many of us get locked in these anxious loops or negative spirals, and sometimes pulling yourself away from self-doubt, fear, anxiety, nervousness. The best way to do that is to bring in a mantra. And so in your head, I'm capable, I'm capable, I'm capable, I'm capable, makes you just feel like I can handle. Good or bad, bring it on. Life only gives me what I can handle. That's a great mantra, because many of us are not feeling capable to handle the next bad thing that comes. Fear of uncertainty comes in, anxiety shows up, and we're anxious about the next bad thing that could possibly throw us off course, and we don't know how to deal with it. Where did the self-doubt come from? Each and every one of you listening today, if you pause and reflect, anytime something's shown up, you've dealt with it. You might have not dealt with it to the best of your ability, but you've dealt with it. And so I think it's important for us to start pausing and reflecting and trusting our skill set, going back inwards to reinforce, I am capable. When you have those moments of doubt, fear, anxiety, not feeling good enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, I am capable, I'm capable. And the beauty of a mantra is you're doing it in your head as you breathe. Nobody even knows you're doing it. You can have a superficial conversation, and instead of getting irritated that you have less than everybody else around you, you can just be, I am capable. So learning to take your thoughts and take charge of them, as well as learn to realize life is always about replacing one thought with the other. Replace the maladaptive negative cognitive distortions, distorted ways of seeing reality, with more positive, uplifting, proactive, self-reassuring thoughts that make you feel capable.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think sometimes mantras get kind of maybe not as well understood. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, positive psychology, positive self-talk, and
Affirmation.
sometimes I'm dealing with clients that, where they catch a snag or where there's objections is usually when they don't believe what they're telling themselves, and so usually
I like that.
what I find helpful is helping them think about how they overcome hard things in the past, having a visual, right? Because what you're talking about makes a lot of sense. You're almost changing the channel. You're detracting or taking up the space and holding space for the sense of adequacy, the positive self-talk, but more as a way to kind of push the negative self-talk away.
Yeah.
That can derail us.
You just said something as they're powerful. Yeah, we feel it's powerful, but again, if I exercise a muscle, it grows. So if I've been exercising a negative muscle, of course it feels the norm now. So life is about also learning to exercise the muscle that is proactively helping you in your future. And so that's where exposure therapy comes in. You want to do things that make you anxious till you get bored by it. You want to be a lean, mean dating machine, date every day of the week, and trust me, you get a master at it.
Yeah.
You want to be, conquering your fear of snakes, then let's encounter them 3 to 4 times a week and we'll get there.
Yeah.
It's about, learning to master the things that we're anxious or afraid of. And those statements that don't feel comfortable, if you say them every day, it's magical how one day you look in the mirror and you actually align with it. But it's about that faith of being healthy enough to do it every day, or to reinforce it enough, even if it doesn't feel aligned with your truth. Right?
Absolutely. Trust the process.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to override what feels right to what you know is right. Right? Because like you said, maladaptive self-harm behaviors, they feel right because they're unhealthy habits we brought into place for a pity party or because we weren't feeling great about ourselves. But it doesn't mean just because you reinforce something unhealthy that it is right for you.
Oh, right. Yeah, like if you're going through a breakup, listening to a breakup song probably isn't the healthiest thing, but it feels cathartic.
Yeah. So give yourself permission to put it on redial a few times, but then after enough.
Okay, it's time, dust myself off. Yeah.
Charge of my life incorrect and continue.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm really big on vision, having a vision of yourself. And I think that the new term is locked in, but you're talking about getting yourself into a space. And so if I'm going through something stressful, sometimes I'll try and physically and mentally get into a space where I felt like I was in my flow in the past. And sometimes, just taking a moment to kind of reorient how you're feeling about yourself in a situation can really help with that negative self-talk. Like, oh yeah, that's right. How can I take this new situation and apply the way I felt in the past when I felt more confident in a situation? Because really nothing's really different.
No, there was a movie I watched.
Yeah.
Like your inner world creates your outer world. And there was that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? And The Peaceful Warrior, if you haven't watched their, fun movies about your inner world is creating your outer world. So, there's days we all have where we feel on top of the world. And it's because inside you actually feel good about yourself. And it's when you have the shame, blame, guilt, or you're just feeling depleted and looking at scrutiny of what's lacking in you and reinforcing that when you walk out there, you feel like everybody else is validating that for you. So, it's important for us to, for our clients as well as for ourselves to really work on our inner world. And, you don't have to sit in silence and go, but learning how to change the dialogue of being hard on yourself, self-scrutiny, also learning how to have compassion enough to do the right healthy habits, right? And give yourself permission to seek help. Like I said, we're in a collective. Google does not help. Find people who can actually talk to you so they can share their stories of how they overcame obstacles and give yourself permission to share your story or your obstacles and struggles so that other people who've also overcome them can share, oh my God, I relate to you. And this is what helped me, or this is a professional who's helped me. I accept a lot of patients just from word of mouth. And, it's always a compliment to see people speaking about their problems in an environment that is social to also come up with solutions, including, hey, go see my doctor, right? Like it's that we're shifting a corner after the pandemic's lifted to maybe start talking about mental health more online and on social media, but also looking for solutions so that we can better ourselves.
Yeah, to be more comfortable showing her underbelly a bit more, to each other, and just to kind of understand that we're all human. We all struggle with the same self-doubt. We all struggle with the same challenges and stress management, and what, we can learn from each other.
We're perfect work in progress at the same time.
That's right.
All of it.
Now, we could keep going. This is such wonderful content. Maybe next time I can rope you back in and we can talk about more opportunity cost and how we manage good stress, because that's something I'd really love to chew on, because that's oftentimes when we think about, we talked a lot about self-care and burnout, but how do we manage managing the stress between the good stresses, right? The goals, the competing goals. Yeah.
And some of us are ambitious and we want to do it all, and we're exhausted and burned out, not because we're depleting ourselves, but we're overstretching ourselves with so many wonderful things. That's the same thing. It's just the opposite side of the quarter. If you're sacrificing your reserves, remember, stress is when your activity level surpasses your energy, whether this activity is depleting in work or it's fun and recreation and social. If there's causing a stress, you got to bring up your energy reserves, food, sleep, exercise and breathing, and a calm state of mind. Make sure, whether it's good stress in your life or turbulent one, that you're always trying to look at your baseline of, am I maintaining a healthy, steady state of the basics so that my body can, fuel itself, manage itself, and work through, things that are stressful, whether it's a positive stress, like having a baby, a new family, a new practice, new jobs, career ventures, or it's difficult stress, death and dying, illness, money issues, work stress, pandemic.
Yeah. Thank you so much for touching on that, because I think that is oftentimes a challenge too. It's just understanding, how to manage our energies and in light of all of the things that we want to see that add quality to our life, but not neglecting, like you said, our energy. How do we protect our energy? And so that'll definitely be a focus for me moving forward. So I appreciate you highlighting so much of these wonderful coping skills, burnout prevention tips and tricks, and also kind of how to think around these things. Because that is really, I think, where the battle is won, is when we can wrap our heads around the concept, and then we can get into life application. But we have to really understand what we're fighting. It's not just
thoughts are powerful things. So please do, pay attention to the thoughts that reinforce health and well-being and self-sacrifice, people-pleasing, and, align on working on yourself. I think the key is we're here to be VIPs, very important people to ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. Well, mic drop. We'll leave it there. Thank you, Dr. Vermani. I really appreciate you being on today, and you're always welcome back on. So feel free to tap my shoulder.
Happy.
As things roll out and anything you want to jump back on and share. Much appreciated. And with that, I wish you a fantastic rest of your week.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day. And
you too.
Keep thriving.
Yes, likewise.
Bye.